Okay, so we're doing something a little bit different in this video right here. We're going over an article on The Athletic, which is not new news. We've talked about stuff like this in the past, but The Athletic is paid for material, so we're not going to go out there and screenshot any of the material from it. I'll leave a link in the description to this article, Alexis Lafreniere Q&A on the highlight of the Rangers' year and the Kid Line's future, published by Arthur Staple on July 29th. Link will be in the description if you want to go ahead and read this piece, and you do indeed have The Athletic. But what I wanted to focus on was this Alexis Lafreniere Q&A. It's an update going over Lafreniere and his psyche towards the team, his opinions and thoughts about what happened in the most recent New York Rangers season, and just use this video as an opportunity to explore Lafreniere's career so far up to this point, and also highlight where things can go from here. And so, without further ado, let's get the conversation underway by going over the profile of the former first overall pick. Alexis Lafreniere was born on October 11, 2001, 6'2", 196 as a left-handed forward, signed till the end of 2023 on his entry-level deal. He was, as we said, the first overall pick back in the 2020 NHL Entry Draft, and he was a guy that was projected to being in the same tier maybe as Sidney Crosby, the last Rimouski Oceanic player that was an absolute game-changing franchise superstar. Unfortunately for Lafreniere, his debut in the NHL was not that of Sidney Crosby's 100-point season and everything. He wasn't really in that same territory. In fact, he had 21 points in 56 games played, which is good enough for half a point a game-ish. And this recent season, he went out there and pretty much produced at the same rate, getting 31 points in 79 games played, 19 goals, 12 assists, so he was actually really close to getting 20 goals on the season, which would have been nice to hit. He also had 9 points in 20 postseason games for the Rangers as they made it to the third round. Now, Alexis Lafreniere, towards the end of this season, was absolutely great, playing alongside guys like Philip Cheadle and Kaapo Kakko. The so-called kid line, as many would go out there and say, was a pretty good line when it came to making Rangers offense happen and producing towards higher levels of play against bigger and badder competition. This leads us, though, to the article on The Athletic, going over a few thoughts that Lafreniere had about this season. Again, we're not going to screenshot this article. Instead, we're going to screenshot a few things on Reddit because some of the quotes actually were posted in the comments of the Rangers sub. Here is the post made by Don't Know Where I Am, Alexis Lafreniere Q&A, and then you have yourselves the first comment from the same user talking about the left-wing, right-wing debate, as well as Lafreniere and his deployment in the lineup. So this is probably the most interesting part of the entire conversation here. We're screenshotting this one because it is on Reddit instead of The Athletic, even though it is from the same interview. Okay, the left-wing, right-wing debate ranges on. Do you have a preference, Alexis? Not really, to be honest. For me, left-wing, right-wing, I'm ready to play wherever with whoever. Every line you're on, you're playing with skilled players. Wherever I am next season, I'll be ready. If it's a choice between first-line right-wing and third-line left-wing, what would you choose? Oh boy, Arthur Staple really pushing for that debate there, isn't it? You always want to play more minutes, Alexis said. That's for everyone. For me, I want to do what's best for the team. If it's playing right-wing, I'll do it. I'll talk with Turk, who is Gerard Gallant, at training camp, and we'll see what he's thinking. It's all for what's best for the team. Now, some of the replies are kind of funny. Papa Scotch says, this Alexis kid is such a beaut. Mysterious Wheel says, what a roundabout way to ask the same question twice. And then you really have this other comment over here from Custer that goes over another thing. Staple really pushed for a Lafreniere is upset with his deployment quote, and the kid just refused to give it to him twice. I love it. Alexis Lafreniere, this is what media training does for you, baby. This is what happens when you're a first overall pick. You're represented by some great people like Emily Castonguay, formerly at least, and you're one of the top mainstay young guys in the entire league. You know what it takes to stand up to the media and answer questions properly. Left wing, right wing. Do you have a preference? He's like, no, I'm good. Just whichever the team prefers me to play. First line right wing or third line left wing? What do you choose? And he's like, yeah, you want to play more, but whatever the team wants from me, I'll go out there and do it. I love the attitude Alexis Lafreniere has. And there are some other quotes from Lafreniere in this article that we can also talk about. And of course, I say talk about, not screenshot because, again, paywall. But there is a few other interesting things that I thought popped up in this conversation with Alexis Lafreniere as well. Lafreniere opens up the interview by talking about how this was the longest season he's ever played because they made it so far into the playoffs, as well as the fact that Lafreniere, I mean, look, last season he played, it was only 56 games long. So this year, full 82 plus the playoffs. There were a lot of games played for the Rangers this season, so it was nice for Lafreniere to be able to take a step back and relax after everything was done. Staple also asked another question about moving up and down the lineup and what Lafreniere's response was to that. He said pretty much that you learn to manage this as you get older, and for most players, it's an inevitability that you're going to be moved around, and you're not going to be the best version of yourself in all 82 games of the season, so some lineup shifting around is permitted. He also talks about things that he's doing to help him out on playing right wing, smaller details, working on breakouts, etc., etc. There also was a little bit of a focus on the kid line and what it was like being a part of that deployment of players and how it was really fun. Lafreniere then says that he feels like he had a good year, but he also feels like he's got a lot more to give to the team as well. He was good 5-on-5, but there also is a lot of power play specialty that he wants to work on as well, so that's very nice to see. There's a little bit of an expansion done on players that are departing from the New York Rangers, like Ryan Strome, and how impactful it is to lose out on some of these guys. So overall, it's a good interview. It's a full-length article. Go out there and read it if you have The Athletic. Click the link in the description below. But I just wanted to also talk about the projection and where we can go from seeing Lafreniere's point production here on out. Because as we did say, his point production only very slightly increased from last year to this year. 21 points in 56 games is a .375 points per game. 31 points in 79 games is a .39 points per game. So it's just barely over there. Now again, he did play a significantly higher amount of games played this year, which is a good thing because you want to get guys used to being able to play 82-game seasons year in and year out. And he also had the playoff run where he was under half a point a game, which is great to see. But for next season, I really do think we could be on the cusp of what Alexis Lafreniere's quote-unquote breakout year could look like. We saw this with Jack Hughes, who was drafted a year before Lafreniere, who really broke out this season into becoming a 90-point pace caliber guy in the very admittedly limited sample that he played. Now, Jack Hughes did not start out his career all too great. He was the worst first overall rookie pick in terms of points per game and points per 60 in 20 years, for crying out loud. I made videos about that the entire time. But Lafreniere was in a very similar boat when he made his debut the next season, so these two guys, Lafreniere and Hughes, maybe it just takes them a little bit longer to get fully accustomed to everything. NHL speed, NHL gameplay, NHL physicality, NHL strategies, NHL goaltending, etc. So, maybe we could be on the cusp of seeing Lafreniere break out in the same way that Hughes did as quickly as 2022-2023. Everything that he had seen from the playoffs, from the 99 games that he played because he had 79 games played in the regular season and 20 in the postseason, these 99 games might be enough to go out there and allow him to shape his training regimes, his off-season workouts into saying, okay, this is how I felt in Game 60 of the season, this is how I felt in Game 70 of the season, let's work on things so we can make sure that I'm a lot more stronger throughout the year, etc., right? So I definitely do think there's a lot of adjusting that could be made on the fly here, especially after a year that was only 56 games long comparative to what he had this season. And I definitely do think there's a lot more benefits that we can see in the next few months, I guess, when it comes to Lafreniere point production-wise, chemistry-wise, and just in totality in general. So talk in the comments your thoughts about Alexis Lafreniere. The interview will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read it. But let me know your thoughts as to where Lafreniere is going to go from last season to this upcoming season. How many points do you think he's going to be able to get? And where do you think he spends most of his time in the lineup? Top 6 right wing? Middle 6 left wing? Who does he play with the most? Who do you think is going to give him the most opportunity to succeed here? Talk in the comments all your thoughts and opinions about Alexis Lafreniere. Rangers fans, where do you think he's going to go? I hope you enjoyed this Juraj 9, and bye.